Okay, imagine this. You hear a song, it's lively, cheerful, but then someone else, they sing the same melody, and it's like suddenly the song is just filled with this like longing and sadness, and that's what we're looking at today. Like, how can that happen? So that's the journey that we're embarking on as we kind of dig into the life and music of Turgut Shinikarov. Now, you might not know this name, but he was super important in shaping Bulgarian, Turkish musical culture.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting about Shinikar? It's that his influence, it went way beyond just one community. His work, it was like a bridge, connecting cultures and like shaping musical landscapes, sometimes in unexpected ways.
Yeah, and it's amazing. We have these two biographical excerpts. One's in English, the other's in Bulgarian. They're going to like guide us through this whole thing. So let's just start at the beginning. Shinikar, he was born in Peshtera, Bulgaria, back in 1936. And like from a young age, it was obvious. The guy had a gift for music.
Yeah, and that talent. That's what took him to Plovdiv. He attended a specialized music school there. It wasn't just any school. This was the place where some of Bulgaria's most promising young musicians, this is where they went. This is where they trained.
Wow, what a start. So from there, he goes on to the prestigious Sofia Conservatory, studying under, some really renowned figures, like Marin Goleminov. So what can you tell us about these mentors and their influence on Shinikar's development?
Well, Goleminov, for example, this guy was a giant in Bulgarian music. He was known for symphonies and his operas. And they blended traditional Bulgarian elements, like modern compositional techniques. So studying under a guy like that must have exposed Shinikar to this huge tapestry of musical ideas.
Oh, yeah. I can definitely see how that would have such a diverse background would shape his approach to music. Okay, so he's got this impressive training. Where does his career take him?
So his path led him to Bulgarian National Radio. And this is where his impact really took off. He wasn't just a musician, he was also a producer, a director, a composer, and a broadcaster. Actually, thousands of recordings of Turkish songs by local artists. They were all made under his leadership.
Thousands. That's incredible. So it seems like he was really, really dedicated to preserving this rich musical heritage and showcasing it.
You could even say that he played a key role in making sure that Bulgarian Turkish folk music, that it not only survived, but that it actually thrived within Bulgaria. And this dedication to preserving musical heritage, it also showed up in his own creative output.
Oh, I'd love to hear more about that. So can you tell us about his compositional work?
One really interesting project was called Three Lutes, Saz, Three Voices. It was a vocal instrumental group. And Shinikar was the driving force behind it.
Okay. Now I've heard of the saz, but I don't really know much about it. What's its significance in Turkish folk music?
Oh, the saz. It's more than just an instrument. It's like a symbol, an iconic symbol of Turkish musical tradition. It has this long neck and this pear-shaped body, and it produces this distinct, soulful sound. It's very evocative. And Shinikar, he used three lutes, three voices to showcase the saz, blending traditional techniques with his own unique style.
That's amazing. And they recorded nearly 50 songs. Wow. It seems like he was constantly creating, exploring new sounds and expressions. But I understand there's this one song that kind of took on a life of its own, a song called Our Land.
Yes, Our Land. It was composed in 1966. It was originally a cheerful piece written for Bulgarian Turks. It was expressing, love for their homeland. But it went on this unexpected journey. It traveled all the way to the Crimean Tatars in Uzbekistan.
Uzbekistan. Wow, that's quite a trip. What happened there? How did a cheerful song from Bulgaria become so meaningful to a community so far away?
It's a story that shows how incredible music is. It has this power to transcend borders and connect with diverse audiences on this really deep emotional level. For the Crimean Tatars, Our Land became this poignant anthem of longing. It reflected their own history, their displacement, their yearning for a lost homeland.
It's just amazing how one song, it can carry such different meanings and evoke such a range of emotions, Can you tell us more about the Crimean Tatars and why this song, Our Land, resonated so deeply with them?
Their story, it's really complicated. It's marked by tragedy and resilience. Back in the 1940s, they were forced out of their homeland in Crimea by the Soviet Union. This displacement, it led to this deep sense of loss and this longing to return.
So when they heard Our Land, it wasn't just about a physical place, right? It was a symbol of their lost heritage and their yearning for a home they couldn't get back to.
Exactly. It really shows how powerful music is. It taps into those universal feelings of belonging and longing. Shinikar, he was composing for a Bulgarian Turkish audience, but he accidentally created this piece that spoke to the hearts of this community thousands of miles away.
Wow, it's almost like the song itself went on a journey. mirroring the diaspora of the Crimean Tatars. It's incredible. So one thing I find so fascinating is that Shinikar's impact, it went beyond composing and performing, right? He was also really important in advising the Bulgarian government on selecting musical talent.
Yeah. He was a huge supporter of young musicians. He would recognize and nurture their potential. Like Rusdi Shukriyev, for example. He advocated for this guy.
Yeah.
And Shukriyev went on to study in Azerbaijan.
Oh, wow. So this, in turn, strengthened the cultural exchange between Bulgaria and Azerbaijan. It's like he was constantly building bridges, connecting people through music. Speaking of connections, our sources mentioned this long-term relationship that he had with the town of Ardino.
Ardino was clearly a special place for him. Back in 1964, he led a music director's school there. He shared his knowledge and expertise with all these aspiring musicians. And later, in the 1990s, he consulted for the Rodopska Iskra 1921 Ensemble. This is a really famous group. It's deeply rooted in the region's musical traditions.
It really does sound like he was committed to fostering musical talent across generations, making sure that the traditions, the rich traditions of Bulgarian Turkish music, that they would continue.
Yeah.
His dedication to teaching and mentorship, it's really inspiring. I wonder what his approach to teaching was like. Did he have a particular philosophy?
Yeah, but the sources don't get into that too much, like the specifics of his teaching methods. But it's clear that he was deeply invested in nurturing individual talent, while emphasizing how important it was to preserve tradition. Think about it. He first led a director's school, and then later on, he consults for a regional ensemble. This suggests a long-term commitment to the community in Ardino.
Yeah, it's like he planted seeds, and those seeds grew into this vibrant musical landscape, influencing countless musicians and enriching the culture of the whole region. It's amazing. And yet, as we've discussed, right, there's this concern that Shinikar's contributions, they might be overlooked or forgotten.
Yeah, and that's a real concern. And it points to this larger issue. How do we make sure that people who make these really significant contributions, often behind the scenes, how do we make sure they get the recognition they deserve? Shinikar, he wasn't looking for fame. He was driven by his passion for the music and his community.
But because he wasn't seeking the spotlight, his story could so easily be lost. It's a reminder that we have to pay more attention to the people who work so hard, not for awards or anything, but for the love of what they do and making their communities better.
Absolutely. We need to celebrate the Shinikars of the world, these people who just quietly shape our culture. They enrich our lives with their art, and they leave behind this legacy that lasts far beyond their own time.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Shinikar's life and work, what do you think is the most important takeaway for our listeners? What should they remember from this?
Well, for me, it's understanding that impact. It's not always about being famous or getting awards. It's about passion, dedication, and a real desire to make a difference. Shinikar was all about that. And through his music, his mentorship, and his commitment to his community, he left this legacy that continues to this day.
It's a powerful reminder that influence can be subtle, but really profound, and it ripples out through generations. And Shinikar's story really shows us that music can be so much more than just entertainment. It can be a bridge between cultures, like a shared language of emotions, and a powerful tool for preserving heritage and identity.
Absolutely. Shinikar's work shows how music, it can connect us to something bigger than ourselves, whether it's a sense of community or our shared history, or even just this longing for a place we've never been like.
And speaking of connections, that brings us back to our land and its journey, right? From a cheerful Bulgarian Turkish song to this anthem of longing for the Crimean Tatars. It makes you wonder, how many other songs are out there that have taken on new meanings and resonated with these unexpected audiences across different times and distances?
Yeah, it's a fascinating thought. Each song has its own story.
Right.
And it has this potential to connect with listeners in ways the composer never even imagined.
It's like sending a message in a bottle. You throw it out into the world, and you see where it lands, who finds it, and what meaning they get from it.
That's a great way to put it. And with our land, that message clearly resonated with a community that was looking for a connection to their lost homeland.
So as we finish up this deep dive into the life and legacy of Turgut Shinikar, I want to leave our listeners with a challenge. Go find Our Land. Listen to both versions, the original and the Crimean Tatar adaptation. Pay attention to how the same melody can make you feel such different emotions and how it carries this different cultural weight.
It's a listening experience you won't forget. And as you listen, think about this. How do songs go beyond their original meaning and take on these new meanings as they travel through different cultures and time? What stories do they tell? And what connections do they make along the way?
Turgut Shinikarov might not be a household name, but his story reminds us that music can build bridges, it can preserve heritage, and it can connect us to something bigger than ourselves. And that's a legacy worth celebrating. It's a powerful reminder that influence can be so subtle, yet profound, and it ripples outward, through generations. Shinikarov's story, it really highlights how music can be so much more than just entertainment. It's like a bridge between cultures, a way to share emotions, and a powerful tool for preserving heritage and identity.
It really is. Shinikarov's work shows us that music. It can connect us to something bigger than ourselves, whether it's a feeling of community or a shared history, or even just like a yearning for a place we've never even been.
Yeah. And speaking of connections, that brings us back to Our Land. And its amazing journey, right? It started as this cheerful Bulgarian Turkish song, and it became an anthem of longing for the Crimean Tatars. It makes you think, how many other songs are out there that have transformed and taken on these new meanings and resonated with people in ways that were never expected, across time and distance?
It's fascinating, right? Every song has its own story and the potential to connect with listeners in ways that the composer, maybe they never even imagined.
Yeah, it's like Fox. It's like throwing a message in a bottle out into the sea, and you just never know where it's going to end up, who's going to find it, or what it's going to mean to them.
Yeah, like a musical message in a bottle. And in the case of Our Land, that message, it landed in just the right place. It resonated with the community who really needed that connection to their lost homeland.
So we're wrapping up this deep dive into Turgut Shinikarov's life and work, and I want to leave you with a challenge. Go listen to Our Land. Listen to both versions, the original and the one by the Crimean Tatars. Really pay attention to how that same melody can evoke such different feelings and how it carries this different cultural weight.
I think you'll find that's an experience that really sticks with you. And as you listen, here's something to think about. How do songs move beyond their original context and find new meanings as they travel through different cultures and across time? What kind of stories are they telling? And what connections are they making?
Turgut Shinikarov, he may not be a name everyone knows, but his story is a powerful reminder that music can build bridges, preserve heritage, and connect us to something bigger than ourselves. And that's a legacy worth celebrating.